I know, it's been a while, but trust me, this one is worth the work and the wait. Stick around. Fellas, welcome back. It's Robert, your everyday gentleman. And again, I know it's been a while since I posted a video, and my apologies for that. I've been working on this video, but things have just gotten away from me. But this is a video you definitely want to check out. Now, if you were watching this when I first uploaded it, we're past Thanksgiving, we're in the holiday season, obviously, as you can tell by my Christmas tree. But I know that some people still work up turkeys, not only for Thanksgiving, but also for Christmas, or really any time of the year. So what I'm going to be talking about today is my turkey recipe. It's a turkey that I've been doing for years, over 10 years, and every year it gets requested. Every time somebody's introduced to this turkey, they love it. And so now I'm going to be sharing it with you. And if you do try it out, make sure you let me know. I think you'll really enjoy it. But before we get into the recipe, if this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. If you're into not only cooking, but also things like men's style, fragrances, fitness, grooming, whiskey, cigars, and other topics for the everyday man, then this might be the place for you. Consider subscribing and joining the growing EG family. And if you're already a member, I want to thank you for your continued support. And without further delay, let's get started with this recipe.
Now, as far as the ingredients, of course, start with your turkey. Next is some kosher salt and some whole black pepper. Some maple syrup, brown sugar, some rosemary, I like this living rosemary, and some ginger, 4 oranges, and some bacon. I like to use a thick cut bacon. Now, of course, you gotta get into the holiday spirit, so before I start, I'm gonna pour myself a nice glass of some eggnog. All right, we set that off to the side, get our cutting board, our ginger, and we're gonna chop this bad boy up. I like to go with relatively small pieces, but it's still pretty chunky. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about shortly. And for all you culinary experts out there, I know my method of chopping isn't the best, but it is effective. Make sure you chop up enough for about ½ cup. Now the next step is to get your oranges and cut them into quarters. And this is pretty much all the ingredient prep you need to do. Now fill a pot with water, and as you're bringing it to a boil, add your 1 cup of kosher salt. Add your ½ cup of chopped ginger. 1 cup of brown sugar. And I'll start stirring the water, mixing those ingredients together nicely as I'm adding them. Then we move on and add our 1 cup of maple syrup. Now, since maple syrup is pretty thick, I use the warm water in the pot to rinse out the measuring cup and get out all that syrup. Toss in your quartered orange slices. I add about 3 sprigs of rosemary and about a teaspoonful of whole pepper. Now this continues to heat up, so we're going to stir it and we're going to bring it to a boil and let it boil for a good 5 minutes. Now we're getting pretty close to boiling here, so make sure you continue to stir. The goal is to get all of the sugar and the salt to dissolve. So now, like I said, we're at boiling. You're gonna let that boil for a good 5 minutes. Again, the goal is to get all those particles dissolved and everything mixed nicely together. Now, you may be thinking that this is a lot of ingredients for the amount of water that I'm using, but the reason for that is we're actually gonna dilute this after it cools. And then once the boiling is done, I'll let it simmer actually for a few more minutes. And then after that, let it sit and cool. All right, so the marinade is completely cool. I'm gonna use an ice chest here to marinate that turkey because you wanna make sure that turkey stays cold. And you wanna make sure, of course, that marinade is cold. And like I mentioned earlier, that marinade is pretty concentrated, so now I'm gonna add a gallon of fresh water just to dilute it and make sure we've got enough marinade to completely submerge that turkey. Make sure you mix that together nicely. Now we're ready to introduce the turkey. The turkey is actually going to sit in this marinade for a good 48 hours. I usually start with the turkey breast down, so let me flip this bad boy over. And since this turkey is going to be sitting in the marinade for a good 48 hours, like I mentioned, the next thing I do is add a bag of ice to make sure that it's cold. And don't forget to close the lid. So the turkey's been sitting in the marinade for a good 24 hours. All you're really going to do now is just flip it over, bring the breast up, and keep an eye on that ice. Add some if you feel it's necessary. All right, it's Thanksgiving morning. The turkey's been sitting in that marinade for 48 hours, so let's get it ready for the oven. Now I have a pan, like a really nice pan that I use for when I make this turkey since I make it so often, but I couldn't find it. We've been rearranging the house and I have no idea where it is, so I had to pick up this disposable number, but it gets the job done, catches those juices, and in the end, that's not the centerpiece of the table. Now, I don't stuff my turkey. I do love stuffing, but stuffing, as I understand it, will actually dry out your turkey. So I actually use some of the ingredients that I use for the marinade inside the turkey. I'll get some more oranges, some more quartered oranges, and stuff those inside the turkey. And then I'll add about 3 more fresh sprigs of rosemary. Now the next and actually final part before we go into the oven is to put a layer of bacon on top of the turkey. Now the bacon, on top of looking delicious, actually acts as a barrier, keeping those juices inside of the turkey. The fat from that bacon will just lock everything in and make sure that your turkey is as juicy as possible. So typically my first step is to lay out about 6 pieces of bacon just going across from the bottom to the top of the turkey. And once we're done with that, I'm going to take some cross pieces, some more strips of bacon, and cross those across those strips that I just put down and actually create a weave that's going to sit on top of the turkey. Now you can see as I'm laying those cross pieces, I'll lift alternatively that bacon to create a nice tight weave. And I actually started doing this weave. This wasn't initially how I used to do it. I used to just lay bacon, you know, parallel on each other on top of the turkey. But I started creating this weave because that actually keeps that bacon together as it's cooking. Since bacon shrinks as it cooks, the weave will help to keep that sheet of bacon on top of the turkey and not have any of it fall off, and make sure it's as covered as possible, because you want to make sure those juices stay inside that turkey. And you can see that weave is starting to come together and it's looking really nice. Now, don't worry too much about the wings, but I do also add some bacon to the legs and try to get the sides covered as much as possible. And this is the end result. As you can see, it looks really nice. I think it's a great looking turkey. People love just to look at it, and it looks delicious, if I do say so myself. That bacon is one of the most visually attractive things of this turkey. And now we're ready for the oven. So we're gonna set the oven at 325 and make sure you cook it for whatever time is needed for the weight of your turkey. And this is the end result. You can see that turkey's got a nice brown color, but it's not burned, even though we cooked it completely uncovered because of that bacon. That bacon, you can see, also shrunk, like I mentioned, and that weave helped keep it all together and still cover a good amount of that turkey. Now, I mentioned that bacon keeps all those juices inside, but it is one of the favorite things that my family enjoys. They want to make sure they always get bits of that bacon on their plate. So all that's left to do now is to carve and serve the turkey. I don't know if you can really tell in here, but this is very, very juicy. If you're a fan of turkey, you're gonna love this recipe.
So that is pretty much it as far as how I do my turkey recipe in the holidays. Now again, you can do this any time of year, and if you do make this recipe, tag me on your social media, post it on there, tag me on it. I love to see how it comes out. Like I said, every time I make it, it's very juicy and I always get good reviews from it. Now, I apologize that I didn't get any actual footage of like the plate or any of the actual meal, but once I carved the turkey and we were having our meal, we just went and focused on that. So I apologize for that, but trust me, it looks great on the plate, it looks great on the table. You can see that it's just a great looking turkey to begin with, in my opinion. And your guests or whoever you have for dinner to enjoy that turkey with you, I'm sure they won't be disappointed. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you found value in it, make sure you let me and YouTube know by hitting that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and do all the things that help this channel continue to grow. And remember, being a gentleman is an everyday thing. Happy holidays, fellas.
We bop and hippity hop, I'm as happy as I can be. Whoa, boom.